Good morning, my dear students. Today, I'll continue with the vibrational spectroscopy. I'm Dr. C.R. Venkateswara, Professor of Chemistry. So, what I'll be explaining today is the modes of vibration, modes of vibrations of molecules. So, there are two ways a molecule can vibrate. One is it can stretch, bond can stretch, or the bond can bend. So stretching can be in two ways. Bending can be in four ways. So stretching can be symmetric stretching, as is shown here by the arrows. So both the arrows are pointing upwards. So symmetrically, there will be stretching. Whereas here, the bottom figure, one arrow is stretching downwards, and the other arrow is stretching upwards. That means one bond is contracting, the other bond is getting stretched. So that means this is asymmetric stretch. So stretching is of two types: symmetric stretching and asymmetric stretching. And bending is of four types. So two bendings can happen in plane, and two bendings can happen out of plane. So in plane bending is one of them is rocking. So the other one is scissoring. So you know scissoring, how a scissor works. So that way the scissoring mode of bending of molecules works. So rocking means both the atoms, both the arms would be moving in the same direction in the plane of paper. So when it comes to out of plane bending, we have wagging and also we have twisting. So twisting, you know, so use your two fingers and try to twist them. So one atom goes into the plane of the paper, one atom comes out of the plane of the paper. So that is how the twisting happens. And wagging, in the case of wagging, both the atoms go either into the plane of the paper or come out of the plane of the paper. So like that, totally we have 6 modes of vibration. So when a molecule is undergoing vibration, we have stretching and we have bending. In stretching, we have 2 modes. In bending, we have 4 modes. And then coming to degrees of freedom. So degree of freedom is the number of independent coordinates required to specify completely the position and orientation of a particle in space. So that is the definition. So you consider a molecule made up of n atoms. Then to represent each mass point, we require 3 coordinates. Hence, to represent n mass points, we require 3n coordinates. So 3n is the total number of coordinates that are required to represent a molecule, the orientation of a particle in space. So out of these 3n, so out of these 3n, we have 3 of them as translational degrees of freedom, 2 of them as rotational degrees of freedom. So together 5. So you have to subtract this 5 from 3n. So it becomes 3n minus 5. And these are vibrational degrees of freedom for a linear molecule. Similarly, you can calculate vibrational degrees of freedom for a non-linear molecule. So it comes out to be 3n minus 6. So for real molecules, you can apply those formulae. You can apply those formulae and then calculate the degrees of freedom, and which corresponds to the peaks in the vibrational spectrum or infrared spectrum. So if you take hydrochloric acid, for example, so here 3n minus 5 formula is applied because HCl is a linear molecule. So there is one mode, okay, one degree of freedom. And CO2, carbon dioxide, this is also a linear molecule, and hence again 3 and minus 5 is applied. So 3 into 3 minus 5 is equal to 4. So there are four modes of vibration. So out of which, how many are really seen in the spectrum? Let us see. See, only three are seen. So one of them is inactive. So why the first one shown here is inactive? Because the stretching is symmetric. So one atom is going to this side, and to the same extent, the other atom on the other side also is going. So and hence, there is no dipole moment generated. So when there is no dipole moment, there is no interaction of electromagnetic radiation with the molecule. And hence, this mode of carbon dioxide, out of the four, this mode is inactive, and the other modes are active. So infrared spectrum is a x-axis. You are taking wave number. So it starts from 400 to 4000. So it is starting from the right side of the paper, not the left side, right side of the paper, and the units are centimeter inverse. And y-axis is percent transmittance. And this is a typical infrared spectrum. So you can see a wave number, centimeter inverse on x-axis, and percent transmittance on y-axis. And these are the peaks that show the transmittance. So if you take absorbance, they would become, instead of becoming valleys, they would become peaks. So there will be just a reverse of what this is if you consider absorbance. So it is a common practice to take percent transmittance on y-axis. And infrared spectrum actually is divided into two parts. So 1400 to 4000 centimeter inverse is one part, and 400 to 1400 centimeter inverse is another part. So the first part I mentioned is called as functional group region, and the second part is fingerprint region. So functional group region is most of the bands that indicate functional group are found in this region and are used to determine functional group of an unknown compound. And in the second region, so bands that are unique to each molecule, similar to fingerprint, are found in this region, and these bands are used to compare the spectra of one of the compounds to another. And this is another typical example of infrared spectrum. So you can see this peak belongs to nitrile group, and this shows that there are no aromatics, and aliphatic hydrogens are present here. One or more alkane groups are present here. So that is how the interpretation of infrared spectrum is done. So each peak is given, is assigned its functional group. So depending on where they are present. So functional group region or fingerprint region. So now finally let me mention about the applications. So there are 5 applications which are listed here. So identification of functional groups and structural elucidation is one of the very important and very prominent application of infrared spectrum. So functional group, if a new compound is synthesized, or if a new compound is isolated from natural products, you have to first go to the IR spectrometer and to find out what are the functional groups that are present. So these functional groups would lead to the elucidation of the structure. And Since we could identify the functional groups and the compound, then we can very well do qualitative analysis. So qualitative analysis can be done. So and reactions also, progress of reaction, that means kinetics can also be studied. And then pollution check can also be done. So pollution control boards also use infrared spectrometer to identify pollution. So after all, finding impurities is not difficult for IR spectrometer. And quantitative analysis can also be done. So that's why infrared spectrometer is a must in most of the research and industry laboratories where analysis is done. So that's all I wanted to explain to you today. Thank you very much.